64 books ranked from my least favorite all the way to the #1 book of the year. I'm really excited about this video. Most of the books that I read this year were really good. Maybe the first 3 books that I mentioned are the only ones that I strongly disagreed with and do not recommend. Let's get right into it. Let's not waste any time. Number 64, Ascension by Nicholas Benji, a book that failed me on multiple levels. The science fiction part was weak. The mountain climbing part, which happens to be a big part of the book, was a complete failure. The author did not do his research on that. I do not recommend Ascension. Number 63, Wolf Song. These two could flip places for the worst book of the year easily. Wolf Song maybe deserves it even more. TJ Klune is an author whose books I enjoy. I'm currently reading one of his books, The Cerulean Sea, and it's great. Wolf Song was horrible in my opinion. It reads like a YA book, and then it inserts, or the author inserts, graphic sexual content into it, which was very confusing and just not something that I enjoyed in this book at all. Number 62, Stranger in a Strange Land. Now that's a highline, that's a classic. The book started off really strong. I thought I was gonna enjoy it at the very least. Like it, I could not get through it once Heinlein starts to preach, inserts himself as one of the characters in the book, and then we're just hearing him spew his political agenda. I did not like that at all. Number 61, A Prayer for the Crown Shine. This is book 2 in the Monk and Robot series by Becky Chambers. I didn't like it. I love book 1. I'm going to continue with the series, but book 2 just didn't add anything new to the story. It was just like a pit stop. Now, number 60, Providence by Max Perry. We're on a ship. There are 4 people on this huge, humongous ship. The ship is steered by artificial intelligence. Humans are unnecessary. It's an interesting story. There's social media mixed into it. It was good, kind of forgettable, but really not bad actually. Maybe it should be a little bit lower down on this list. Number 59, Hitchhiker's Guide to a Galaxy. Now here's a book that I should probably reread. I read it for the first time this year. I just didn't like the humor in it. It's just not my type of humor. The satire, I don't know. I know there's some deeper themes underneath that humor, but I don't know. I thought it was ridiculous, and I didn't enjoy it. But I am thinking that I should probably read it again. And I think on the second read, knowing what I'm going into, I may enjoy the book a little bit more. Arch Conspirator is number 58. Here, the next few books are thin, short books, quick reads. Veronica Roth. It was a good story. Feed Them Silence at 57. Now that was an interesting read. I had high hopes for it because there's some technology that allows a scientist to kind of go into a wolf and experience the wolf through the wolf's senses, right? So it sounded really good. It was good. It was worth reading. I recommend you check it out. Feed Them Silence. It's got some interesting themes. Binti, Okorafor, a good story, really satisfying. But just short, the world building was lacking. I needed more from it. But I think there are several other books in that series. I think 2 others, and I definitely want to read them at some point. It was good. Rankinen's World, Ursula K. Le Guin at number 55. So that's very low. The reason for that is, for one, I didn't really enjoy this story. But for 2, I think the reason why I didn't enjoy it is because I listened to it. I'm not good listening to audiobooks. My mind, my attention just wanders. I have to re-listen. It's not great. So I do need to reread it. To Your Scattered Bodies Go by Jose Farmer, number 54. Now here's a book that again had fantastic premise to it, but the execution wasn't great. The book really didn't age well in my opinion. It was cringy at times and difficult to read. I do recommend that you make up your own mind on that one for sure. Number 53, My Heart is a Chainsaw. My Heart is a Chainsaw by Stephen Graham Jones, whom I met earlier this year at a book signing. Really nice guy. This was a fun read, a slasher. Great book, I think, for teenagers. I enjoyed it a lot. It was a fun book, but that's about it. Replay. Another book that is fun, easy to recommend. I think most people will enjoy it. It's a good book if you're new to the genre or of science fiction as well. Everyone likes to think of how it would be if a certain portion of their life was to be replayed over and over. What would you change, right? Starter Villain by Scalzi. Here's a book that I really enjoyed as I read it. I had a lot of fun with it, but then when I finished it, I was like, so what? That's kind of what I felt at the end of the book. At number 50, I, Robot. Now here's a classic, Asimov's. I read this book many, many years ago, and it made a huge impression on me. I was surprised that it didn't have such a huge impact on me this time. That's okay. I've read a lot since, and it's still one of the classic books, and Asimov obviously added so much to the genre. I respect him immensely. Number 49, Diaspora by Egan. Now this is a book that was just very, very dense, very difficult read for me. An interesting story again, a lot of science, not a book for someone who's new to the genre. Very dense read at number 49. Number 48, The Mountain and the Sea, Ray Naylor's release, first book that he wrote. It was a good one. I thought it was going to be great. It wasn't great in my opinion, but considering it's his first book, I'm really looking forward to his next one, which is coming out soon. I think March, a new book is coming out. Number 47, Time Machine by Wells, another classic, the time traveling aspect and how kind of the world changes around the traveler very quickly. That was visually very interesting. Good read. Definitely fun, very short, considering its importance in the genre. A great book. Number 46, Authority by Vandermeer. This is book 2 in the trilogy, the Southern Reach trilogy, which I enjoyed a lot. This one was the one that I least enjoyed out of the 3, but still very good in my opinion. Number 45, Higher Than Everest by Tandy Sharpa, who again I had an opportunity to meet at a book signing. He grew up in the most humble of circumstances, as poor as you could imagine, did not have any shoes, sandals, nothing until he was 13, I believe. And now he is one of the most famous Everest guides in the world and a co-owner of Himali, a company that has mountain gear. Number 44, we're at 44, Sight. This was a book that I read with my daughter, with Anya. We had a good time reading the book. Both she and I liked it. It's book 1 in a series. We're gonna continue on at some point with book 2 and hopefully book 3. It's a young adult book, but it was really good. Blood Music at 43. Now, if you're looking for a horror, science fiction horror, or some elements at least of horror in a science fiction book, this is the one to go to. An excellent story. Really a good book. 43. When I read this book, I thought it's gonna be a top 10 read. So that tells you how many books I enjoyed. Shards of Earth by Tchaikovsky. It didn't grab me. This is book 1 in the architecture series. I'm definitely gonna continue on with the rest. It was good. It wasn't great. Return from the Stars by Stanisław Lem. This was a fantastic read. Very interesting look at someone at an astronaut returning after many years from a trip where obviously on Earth over 100 years have passed. Well, as for him, it was maybe like 20. So the Earth has changed completely and he's trying to adjust. Very interesting, surprising book. I liked it a lot. Now, number 40, we have The City and the City by China Miéville. Really good book, a different kind of book, difficult to put your finger on it, whether it's science fiction, magical realism, fantasy. It's a mix, very unique. China Miéville, it's got his own kind of voice and it really shines in this book. I enjoyed it a lot. At number 39, we have City. So we had The City and the City. Now we have C-Max City. Great, a classic book. It's a stitch up of several short stories. Really interesting vision of the future. Number 38, Red Rising. I liked Red Rising a lot. I'm definitely excited to continue with the series, but I was expecting more. But I have heard that book 1 is not as good as book 2, 3. So I'm really excited to read Pierce Brown's, the whole Rising series. Number 37, Acceptance. Acceptance is book 3 in the Southern Reach trilogy by Vandermeer. This is the one that wraps it up. It was good. It did explain some things. I think I was hoping for a little bit more of a proper explanation, but it is a good book. It is a satisfying ending. And while a lot of people have only read book 1, Annihilation, I think you need to read all 3 of them to kind of get the full picture, full scope of this story. And I think you will like it. Artificial Condition is at number 36. Artificial Condition, obviously it's one of the murder bots. I think it's book 2. I liked book 1. I really liked book 2. I'm excited to continue with Murderbot. Everyone's talking about Murderbot. I don't need to talk about it. And I think it's going to be made into a movie. So that's super exciting. Pick it up, read it, enjoy it. It's fun. Outlive at number 35, the only nonfiction book that I read this year. And Outlive is by Peter Attia, fabulous read. It deals with where the medicine currently is and where hopefully it's going. Not our longevity, prolonging people's lives while they're sick, but trying to prevent getting sick in the first place and having more emphasis on prevention. Great book. Number 34, Pines. Blake Crouch's Pines. I really liked the story. It's fun. It's crazy. It's got Twin Peaks vibes. Another series that I started this year that I'm looking forward to continuing with. Number 3, an end to a series, Death's End. I read the first 2 books in the Remembrance of the Earth's Past trilogy. Last year, I liked Death's End. There were too many things thrown into it. It wasn't cohesive at some point. It just fell apart a little bit. But the ambition, the ideas, incredible. I really liked it. Death's End is at number 33. Number 32, Fahrenheit 451. This is a reread. I liked it a lot. I'm just putting it kind of in the middle because it wasn't any different than my reading it, sometime I think 20 years ago. It was a good story. It's one of the classic dystopian novels. I still think in 1984 is my favorite of that type. But this one still resonates very strongly and the message is powerful in Fahrenheit 451. Number 31, Elder Race by Tchaikovsky. Great story. I was surprised how much I enjoyed that one. I recommend it's short. I recommend you pick it up and check it out for yourself. It kind of merges fantasy with science fiction and in a very interesting way shows how one could be viewed as the other very easily by a more primitive race. Now we're going into top 30 and at number 30, Mapping the Interior by Stephen Graham Jones. A powerful book, scary look at the plight of Native Americans living currently. Really a powerful read. I like the book a lot. Number 29, Deepness in the Sky, a follow-up to A Fire Upon the Deep. Fire Upon the Deep is one of my all-time favorite science fiction books. This was great, fun, fabulous story, also fabulous villain in this story, one of my all-time favorite villains. But the book was a little bit slow in the middle, just some fat could have been taken out and it would have been a better read. So that was number 29. At number 28, Paper Managery, short stories by Ken Liu. Fabulous. I recommend you pick them up. You read them. Probably should be higher on this list. Number 27, Words of Radiance by Brendan Sanderson. Book 2 in the Stormlight Archive. And Words of Radiance was fabulous. So much fun. Number 26, Metamorphosis by Kafka. I loved Kafka. It's been a while since I read anything by Kafka, and Metamorphosis was just fabulous. Kafka's voice is so unique, one of a kind. Number 25, The Day of the Triffids. A great read again. I had a lot of fun reading this dystopian book. Really interesting read. I'm glad that I picked it up. It was the first John Wyndham book that I read. I'm gonna definitely continue reading some of his other works. Number 24, A Maze of Death. Now, excuse me, PKD. Philip K. Dick with A Maze of Death blew my mind. This was such an interesting read. You have the weirdness that you always get with Philip K. Dick, but the story was really good, really strong. It was more lucid, I think, than some of his other books. I really enjoyed A Maze of Death. Number 23, Wool. Now this was a fun read. If you've watched Silo, I think it's on Apple. That show was good. The book is a lot better. Wool is book 1 in the Silo trilogy. I've only read Wool so far. I don't know if I'm going to read the other 2. Probably at some point I will. But book 1, you can read it as a kind of a standalone and really enjoy it. Number 22, The Ferryman by Justin Cronin. A great science fiction read. It's got this twist that you may expect or you may not, depending on how much of science fiction you've read. It was done really well, very interesting, well written. Justin Cronin has a way with words that works very well. Number 21, The Forever War by Joe Haldeman. Fabulous war story. Joe Haldeman lived through Vietnam War, and this is his take on the atrocities, on the horrible mindlessness of the war itself and how it affects people when they're coming back home. And of course, in the future, coming back home means something completely different than it did for him with the time dilation. But nevertheless, I think it's a personal account extrapolated into a future of a conflict like this. Very interesting. Empire Star at 20, Delaney. Delaney's writing, I don't even know what this story was about. I need to read it again, but it was crazy. And the way Delaney writes, the way he puts together words into sentences into paragraphs, is just mind-boggling. I think Delaney, if he wasn't a science fiction writer, he would be a lot more famous because he is a master. Number 19, right? Holly by Stephen King. I love Stephen King. I don't know if Holly deserves to be quite this high on this list. There are probably objectively few books that I've already mentioned that are better than Holly, but Holly was just so much fun to me. I really enjoyed it. I was afraid Stephen King is getting a little bit older. The fairy tale was kind of a little bit weak to me, but Holly was a good comeback for Stephen King, so I'm excited about that. Number 18 now, Whalefall. This was just a fun story, kind of like Holly, not super deep, although there are some themes of father-son relationship and how that projects into the life of the son. But the Whalefall, a scuba diver being swallowed and trying to survive inside the belly of a whale, a sperm whale. Incredible story, so much fun. I recommend you check it out and let me know what you think about it. More Than Human at 17 by Theodore Sturgeon. Now here is a story just like Delaney. The story is good, the writing is better, the prose is amazing. Theodore Sturgeon is fabulous. But here maybe the reason why this one is ahead of Delaney's is this story was a little bit more captivating. Number 16, we have Of Mice and Men, Steinbeck. Need I say more? My daughter was reading it for school. I never read it previously. I picked it up. I read it in, I think, one sitting. Incredible. Really a touching story. Beautifully written. A time, a place, a capsule, really. Now we're at 15. A Psalm for the Wild Bill. So if you remember, I talked about Prayer for the Crown Shark being one of the worst books that I read this year. A Psalm for the Wild Bill is at number 15. One of the best reads. Fabulous. Solar punk. Great feel to the book. Positive, optimistic view of the future, interesting conversations between a tea monk and a robot. Fabulous book, short. I recommend you pick it up and make up your own mind if you like it or not. Number 14 now, Tau Zero, Anderson's classic. I really enjoyed it. The story was really well concentrated on what's going on a certain ship as the ship is traveling faster and faster, out of control. What is happening to the humans? What is happening to the world around them? Science, dense. I loved Tau Zero. Now at number 13, 5 Decembers. This was not a science fiction book at all. It's a historical fiction, I suppose, takes place during World War II. Starts right before the bombing of Pearl Harbor, and the story takes off from there. It's not a war story so much. It's a murder mystery connected with a beautiful romance. A beautiful book. I really enjoyed it. 5 Decembers by John Castro, I think is the name. I recommend it very strongly. Check it out. Now at number 12, Ursula K. Le Guin makes another appearance with a book that I reread, Left Hand of Darkness. Again, when I read it, I thought this may be the book of the year. It's not. It's only at number 12. But it's a great read. Such a thought-provoking book. If you have not picked up Left Hand of Darkness, I strongly recommend it. Number 11, The Invincible. Stanisław Lem with The Invincible. Great story. I don't even want to get into it. I think you need to pick it up. There are some surprises in this story. It's a proper science fiction read. I really liked it a lot. I love Stanisław Lem's, of course, Solaris, but The Invincible is a good one. Number 10. Now we're in top 10. Oh my gosh. You know what? I should get these top 10 books so I could show them to you instead of these little add-ons. So let me get the books and I'll be right back. You're not gonna believe this. As I'm picking up the books off my shelves to put them together for the top 10, I realized that there's one book that I totally forgot about. And it's a fabulous read. The Silent Patient. I don't know how high this book would have been on my list. As I was going through the list, I totally forgot about it. I omitted it. It would be high. This could be as high as top 10. If we go only by the enjoyment, the reading enjoyment, this is top 10. I read this book in one day, over 2 days, but like 24-hour period. Fabulous twist, great mystery. I really enjoyed this book a lot. So we have a bonus somewhere between number 9 and number 15 for sure would be The Silent Patient, but I'm not gonna redo this whole list. So we're gonna continue on to the top 10 now. And at number 10, we have Jeff Vandermeer with Annihilation. This is a book that is gonna bend your mind. The vibes here are so weird. Descriptions are beautiful. Jeff Vandermeer can write. You're gonna be scratching your head to figure out what's going on to build this world. Such a great mystery. I loved Annihilation. It's book 1 in the Southern Reach trilogy. You pick it up, you start reading it. I think you're gonna be hooked. Fabulous, fabulous stuff. And keeping it weird, we have Philip K. Dick with Ubik. This might be the weirdest book on this whole list of now 65 books. This is the type of book that only one person could write. Philip K. Dick was such a unique writer. Of course, had a lot to do with his life's experiences, the drug abuse, but his mind, the imagination that it produced is second to none. And Ubik defies expectations. The less you know about it going in, the better off you are, because even as you're reading it, you're still gonna be thinking, what the heck is going on? But it's fabulous, well written, beautiful book, fun, fast, weird. PKD, Empire of Silence, Christopher Rucchio. This book was a surprise. This was, I think, my favorite new series that I started this year. This is book 1 in the Sun Eater series. Excellent stuff. Really, again, well written. I think that's a prerequisite. If you're gonna be in the top 10, the book cannot be poorly written. It cannot be just fun. And Christopher Rucchio can definitely write. And for a science fiction book, this one really has fabulous characters. They're different. They have different voices. They're well developed. The world building feels more like a fantasy, but it's definitely sci-fi in its scope. Very interesting book. I am so looking forward to continuing with the Sun Eater series. My understanding is the follow-ups are just as good or maybe even better. So this is really exciting stuff. In the Lives of Puppet by TJ Klune. So as you may remember at the beginning of the video, TJ Klune made an appearance with Wolfsong. It was one of the worst reads of the year. This is one of the best, one of the most positive, the most fun, good message. This is kind of a retelling of Pinocchio done in a beautiful way. The found family vibes that you're gonna get from this book. If you enjoy that trope, this is going to be a favorite for you as well. Laugh out loud funny. I loved so much reading this book. The characters here, incredible. Such a warm, feel-good story that does leave you thinking about certain things also. Acceptance. There's a lot of interesting themes well explored in The Lives of Puppets. Excuse me, I loved it. It was also Goodyear's #1 science fiction book of the year. So there is that. And now we've got this big boy, Brandon Sanderson, The Way of Kings, book 1 in the Stormlight Archive. I really enjoyed this. I liked this one a lot. I liked book 2, Words of Radiance, maybe even more, but I'm picking this one ahead of it because when I was reading it, I was just so happy because this was book 1. This was the first book that I read of Sanderson's ever. So I was just so happy that what I've been hearing about was coming true, and the story was just incredible. The characters were fun, they were gripping, they were interesting, they were different. There were nuances to them, to each one, not straightforward when it comes to their motivations and their decision-making processes. Just a great book, and the world building, oh my God, second to none. Brandon Sanderson can build a fantastic fantasy world. Now, at number 5, top 5, oh my gosh, right? Stoner by John Williams. This could be #1. If this wasn't a science fiction channel, this book would be my #1 read. It's one of the most powerful books I ever read, one of the most beautiful books, slow, melancholy, but so gripping at the same time. In order to do that, the author really used some sort of magic that I don't even understand why I like this book so much. But as I was reading it, it was a revelation. I was rooting for this protagonist, even as I was angry at him for giving up on his family, his daughter. There's so many things here, so many themes that are explored in such a way that really resonates slowly. This book is a meditation. This is a fabulous book. It's definitely my one of the top 2-3 books of the year. It's at number 5 because I want to concentrate on science fiction, but it was an incredible, beautiful read. I strongly recommend you check it out for yourself. It's not for everyone, I'm sure, but for the right person, this could be a life-changing experience. Ursula K. Le Guin. I love Ursula K. Le Guin and The Lake of Heaven. again, was a revelation for me. I thought Left Hand of Darkness, my favorite Ursula K. Le Guin book, cannot be beaten, and The Lake of Heaven outdid it for sure. It was just such a compact story, so well told. So I could really see myself in the protagonist's mind. The protagonist is someone who seems weak in the beginning. His dreams have the ability to change the world, and they do change the world. And in the hands of someone who is perhaps less than scrupulous, these things could cause huge problems for humanity. So there are big scopes to this story that is pretty compact, pretty short, but really well written, thought-provoking, easy to digest, easy to understand, but you gotta put this book down and you're gonna be thinking about it, and that's what I did, and that's what I'm still doing. Just a fabulous, fun read, a lot of interesting philosophy in, 200 and some pages, less than 200 pages. Beautiful stuff. Now this, a little bit more pages here, but for a good reason. Stephen King, 11/22/63, fabulous book. Not a typical science fiction. The only science fiction part is the trope of time travel. We're going back in time to the 60s to save JFK, to prevent the assassination. No spoilers. If you pick this up, you're gonna know right away what the book is about. But this turned out to be so much more than an exploration of a certain time in America, which was done beautifully because, of course, Stephen King can write small town Americana like no one else. He can write characters that are really powerful, that will stay with you. And he does that in this book. The time travel is done really well. Also, the story is interesting. I learned a lot about the assassination of JFK from this book, which was very interesting. But the best part of the book was the one that brought tears to my eyes. And that was the romance in this story. I really enjoyed that part. I really loved it. I was pulling for them. It was beautiful. It was thought-provoking. It's one of my favorite Stephen King books of all time, for sure. Number 2 on the list, Children of Time, Adrian Tchaikovsky. Fabulous book. What a great science fiction story. Large in its scope, huge timeline. And there are 2 timelines. In one, we're with humans as they're trying to survive. Earth is becoming non-viable anymore. And in the other timeline, we are on a planet where an uplift took place, an accidental uplift of intelligence of a certain species. We're talking about spiders. Again, not a spoiler. You'll know about this if you just pick up the book and read the back of it. What a great story. And this was the part that I really was gripped by. Evolution was accelerated. These spiders are becoming self-aware. They're building civilization. They're dealing with internal politics, just beautifully told as these spiders are building a civilization and slowly reaching for the stars. And then we have these humans who are looking for a place to live, a planet to live on. And you know that there is going to be some sort of a meeting, some sort of a collision eventually. And it's fabulous. It's fantastic. Children of Time was just such a great, fast read. Just a great book. The characters were good. I actually liked the spiders more than the human characters. The human characters were a bit more forgettable, except for one who becomes, let's just say, less or maybe more than human. But otherwise, it was the spiders that I really fell in love with and was kind of rooting for. But number 1, there could only be one. There's only one Hyperion. There's only one Hyperion by Dan Simmons. Incredible story. Well written. Dan Simmons writes very well. Canterbury Tales style to this book. So we have pilgrims going on this voyage to Hyperion, the planet of Hyperion, to the time tombs, which are traveling back in time. There's so many things that your imagination will just be sparkling with as you read this book. Each of the pilgrims, as they're on this long voyage, tells his or her story. Why are they going to the time tombs? And you as a reader are listening, reading this incredible story. Each one is fabulous. Some of them are horrific. The first one, the monks, the priest story, is, when it comes to sci-fi horrors, this is as horrific as things get. But each story is gripping in its own way, and each one is a piece of a puzzle that you are putting together as the protagonists in this story are also putting those pieces together. And it's beautiful, and it's amazing, and it's incredible, and it's book 1. Hyperion is book 1 in a contest of there are 4 books to it. I cannot wait to continue. I'm going to continue reading it in 2024. And This is my favorite book of the year. It's gonna be one of my favorite books ever, science fiction books for sure. Top 3, top 5, I don't know, I gotta think about it. I'm gonna shoot the video next year, tell you what my top 10 or maybe top 20 science fiction books of all time are. And I know this one is going to be vying for the number 1 spot with a couple of other books for sure. I recommend Hyperion. If you've read it, let me know. If you've read any of these books that I talked about on my list of 65 now books, let me know what you think. If you agree, let me know. If you disagree, definitely let me know what I got wrong. Let me know your favorite books. And I'm looking forward to speaking to you next year. 2024 is going to be amazing.